making a decision? And do you have any questions for the board?
So first of all, I'd like to thank you all again for having me here this evening. I feel like it's a great opportunity for both of us, and I'm hoping that I make a good impression upon you. And I do have a few questions. And now I'm really, at the end, just like when they interviewed me, I felt like I crashed at the end, so. And the last, can you just say it one more time? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so is there anything else that you would like the board to know that will help them in making a decision, and do you have any questions?
Okay, so I just want you to know that I'm totally dedicated and committed to the aging population throughout all my jobs, starting way back in 1988, working with the mentally ill. It was just something about bonding with the aging population. They just tend to warm to me, and I warm to them. So I'm very dedicated, and I was dedicated long before I got to be almost 62. And some of the questions that I might have for you, just jot it down. I just wanted to include just a couple more things. I think we're probably trying to end at 6:30, I would imagine.
Well, we didn't start at 6, so anyway, go on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I just wanted to say that in all my time, in all my positions, throughout my mental health and substance abuse, I am the file queen. When DPH is coming, the Department of Public Health, or the Boston Public Health Commissioner was coming, I was in charge. In all the years and all the programs that I've been in, with my documentation, I have never been marked once. So I'm very proud about that, about my documentation, that it's very important, and keeping all the files up to date, nothing. When I check things once, and then I check them again. I always check everything at least twice, and I say, if I check it twice, I don't need medication, but after that, I'm heading to OCD. So I like to make sure that I check things double. The questions that I have for you. I had done some research to see that there's almost 6,000 people in the town. Is that accurate at this point?
Actually, it's lower than that, but
5,363 or something like that, I think it said in the.
yeah, well, it's probably lower than that.
Okay.
We're one of those communities in Massachusetts that's going down. Of which
We're all moving to Rutland, I guess.
I don't know, but there's a lot of them west of Worcester that are in our category, so we're in that group.
And I'm not really sure about the programs you have, but when I was at the interview, I took the calendar so
Mhm.
that I became aware of all the programs that you have, and have some thoughts about that as well, about different programs. And so I'm sure that the health insurance is included. And how many people do we service at the senior center roughly, do we know?
You know,
Depends on the day of the week.
Roughly
Depends
a
on
year though?
what you're considering service to.
I mean, people that come in on a weekly basis, perhaps?
Tuesdays and Thursdays are our most busy 2 days. And those days, between yoga and bingo, you're probably serving 50 to 60 people.
And then you do have your luncheon every day, Monday through Friday, and Hardwick will be included in the luncheon as well, or they already have that?
No, they are included
already
in
have?
everything that we do in the center.
Okay, so they've already been combined.
yes.
Okay. I guess most of all, I just want you to know that I'm passionate and energetic, and I don't go home until the job's done.
Okay. Do board members have any other questions, or?
I don't.
I just have a question. What kind of experience do you have dealing with, like, the media and public relations? That's certainly a pretty big component of the public sector
I'm glad
job.
you asked me that question, because I didn't include that. for 10 years that I was at AIDS Project Worcester, I was on the fundraising and events committee, and had the breakfast with the politicians, and was always out in the community, giving talks on AIDS, and all the politicians in the city,
Mhm.
fundraising. I've been well, AIDS Project Worcester, we did one major fundraising a year, but there'd be 5 or 6 different events through the year. I'd be the chairperson, organize everything. At Christmas time, we'd have a big party. I should say they, but I am still a volunteer there, so I do volunteer there still in the community garden. So I'm really big up on with the events and the fundraising and the community and out in the community, socializing with people and, you know, making sure everything's
Okay.
above board.
Okay, and a lot of, just to let you know, a lot of the budget presentations and so on, you will be the go-to person. A lot of that type work is in the evenings, just given the type of town we are. With our finance committee, you all meet at night.
I have no problem coming out at night and
Yeah.
make sure I
It,
get
it's
good
not,
notes.
it's not a lot. I won't tell you it's the one meeting a month routine, as you've probably heard, because it doesn't work that way. I think we've been told that, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
but,
Ours is a little bit more broad-reaching, I guess, but still.
but anyway, that does involve a lot, some night work on presenting the budgets and being available for the town meeting when it's time to vote. 'Cause we have to go to town meeting for all our appropriations.
I will be available for every single
Okay.
one.
Okay,
And in any event, any Saturday, I will be there
yeah,
and
it's usually in the
prepared to
evening.
go.
Usually in the evenings, but it won't be that bad, but it is available. I always call Barry one of those towns within the nocturnal empire of the Commonwealth, so. Anyway, that's all I had. Gentlemen, do you have nothing else? Okay, if you're all set, we,
All right.
thank you very much.
Andrew, thank you. Greg, thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Charlie,
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Matt, Faye.
Wow.
You're good at that.
Wow.
Emily,
That-
Dick, yeah. Yeah, and I don't know.
I'm the only girl that's there,
Nice.
I'm the media.
And lots of,
There's a lot
Just so you
for us.
know.
yeah, lots to do with the Worcester Telegram and the
No, I don't
media
care,
back in the
just,
day.
just, I was,
Yep.
I didn't know if you saw it go
Thank
through,
you,
that's why I looked up,
everyone.
I was chuckling.
Thank you.
There was another one that was.
Have a great
there was
evening.
two, that's why I said.
You
"Oh,
too."
Look at that, didn't hear anything back.
No,
Okay, must be okay.
I don't care how
It
many
was just
there
like,
are.
finish it off, go
Who
to
do
the
we
next
have
one.
next?
Well, yeah, you could have split, you could have called this one, the one that was 2 parts. We could have-
Eileen?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Eileen Clarkson. Yeah,
I
this-
think I
this-
meant-
This could be, yeah, 8, 9, 10, 6, 7, 8.
Either way I wanted, but it's
So is it open or closed?
You can leave it
close
open
that's
for
fine.
now.
That's all right.
It won't stay open, Charlie.
Yeah, I know there's a little hook here.
Thank
Oh,
you.
who came
See
up-
ya, thank
who
you very
came up
much,
with that
everyone.
one?
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thank you for coming in.
Me and Tony.
Okay,
Andrew, you want me
do we want to keep going on?
Recess. All set. I'll go grab these lunches, all set.
We all set? You all set? The next one?
Just 1 minute,
You want just one?
just do a
Okay.
quick double check of that.
Greg noted to me that we did this at question number 6.
Just changes the total score is all. And you gotta remember, we didn't put the numbers underneath question 10, so you still gotta put a number.
If 8 had been split into 2 and there's a 2-part, that could have really been 2, but we just did it as one group, so that would have made the 10, but we would have had a second score line there, so.
Gotcha.
I think he had 10, we just didn't split it up and do it.
What score is that?
Okay. Yep. Come right in.
The hot seat.
Hot seat, huh?
Yeah.
Which one?
Pick a chair.
Hi, how are you? Good.
Hi.
Any chair up
Hi.
front here.
Hi.
My name's Charlie Chase, the chairman of the board.
Greg O'Sullivan,
Hi.
nice to meet you. Make Matt stand up now.
Matt Urban, good to meet you.
You okay?
And Faye Sikowski.
Hi. Hi.
Okay. Just as a way of introduction, tonight we are, just to let you know that this is an open meeting with the full board, and that's the way it has to be. And the meeting is also televised, it's gonna be on a delayed thing, so, but I wanted to let you know that right at the outset, so, it is an open meeting. And I guess the way we're handling it is we have questions but let you give us some of your background and information that you might like to share with us about yourself and a brief history of your work and your professional career and that sort of thing. And then we have some questions, and there'll be an opportunity for you to ask us some questions if you'd like. And we are trying, so you'll know, we are trying to keep the questions pretty much similar from person to person the best we can. We have some written questions that we're asking off a list, so they should be pretty close to the same. So I guess I can turn the floor over to you and let you give us a background.
Okay, sure. Let's see, I worked in human services for roughly about 20 years. I have a master's in human services with specialization in gerontology, and I have a master's in public administration. I have also all different kinds of credentialing. I'm a human services board certified practitioner. I'm a certified dementia practitioner. I'm a notary. I have different certificates in some of the evidence-based programs that are out there. There's probably about 12 of them that are out there. I have probably about 9 of those certificates. I've worked with developmentally delayed folks for a number of years. I have worked in the school system for a number of years. Prior to that, I worked in the town of Templeton as the director over there, and then the city of Gardner for a number of years. Not sure what else you're looking for education or certification.
Whatever you want to tell us to introduce
Yeah,
yourself.
basically, whatever you
Anything wanna make-
decide
Anything you
you're-
want to make sure we took out of your application and got it, this is the time to put it out.
Yeah.
Let's see, anything else? Not that I can think of. You know,
Okay.
sure, maybe as I go along, I might think of a few other things.
Okay, so,
You'll have another opportunity in the end to.
yeah, you'll have
questions and stuff.
an opportunity when we close in to ask us something if you want. So I guess I can turn the floor over to Andrew, and he can have some questions.
Yeah, so I'll be asking the questions for the board, so I'll ask the questions and then just address it to the board.
Okay.
So the first question is, please tell us why you're interested in becoming the next Council on Aging Director, and what about Barry makes it a community that you would want to work in?
Okay, the first part of the question again was,
Please tell us why you are interested in becoming the next Council on Aging Director.
well, I've always enjoyed working with the population, seniors. I've worked with them for probably about 15 years, and enjoy them. That's what my master's is in, is gerontology. I have, I just enjoy their stories and helping them. I really want to make sure that they get the most out of what they, are entitled to, and I'm willing to help them in any way that I need to. I used to live in Barry, so I'm very familiar with Barry. I have relatives here, so I guess that was, part of it. I know the community.
Okay.
If selected as director, what types of programs do you plan on initiating at the Berry Senior Center?
Well, I'd certainly have to look at it and evaluate it, talk to folks, see what they're interested in having. You know, everybody's different. Some folks may not like certain things. I know currently a lot of what folks are looking for is more of an exercise and maybe some support groups. I had several different programs take place in both Templeton and Gardner, and that were very successful. One of them being some of the evidence-based programs that I mentioned earlier, maybe providing some of those, which is just a healthy living kind of program. Some of the other things I had put in place were some different card games. Some of those are very successful as well. Pitch was a huge thing that a lot of folks enjoy. So those would probably be some of the things. But after talking with folks, it'd probably change.
The town of Berry recently regionalized our senior center with the town of Hardwick. How would you work with the Berry and Hardwick Councils on Aging and the residents of each town to improve the operations of the senior center?
I did hear that Hardwick had closed and had merged with Berry. I would certainly try to reach out to those folks over in Hardwick via whatever maybe media or is available. Talking with maybe the previous director over there and see what she can maybe provide for input as to how to assist with that. She may have some ideas that could help, but maybe going on and doing something via TV, letting folks know that we're available to them, and if they have some interest or if they need some kind of assistance, that we're there to help them.
How do you view your role in working with the Council on Aging, town administrator, and residents?
How do I view my role? I certainly would look at assistance if I had an issue to the town administrator, to the residents if there was some kind of need, looking out to reach out to you as well as the selectmen to hopefully fill that need, whatever it may be. You never know, there's always issues that come up that you never know about. But trying to, let folks be aware of what's going on within the center, promoting it, making them understand that we're a place for people to go, that are looking for maybe resources or activities or a support group or whatever the case may be. There's certainly always something that somebody in the community would need help with.
What do you see as the most difficult issues to deal with as a Council on Aging director?
Most difficult issues. Is that like a loaded question? Usually I find a difficult issue is sometimes budgeting. Budgets can be a huge impact. So I guess it would be budgets. Funding.
Give an example during your employment history of when you had to think outside the box.
Okay, that would probably be, when you're limited with funding, trying to find ways to have something paid for or have something take place that you want people to be able to utilize. A few things that have come to mind, I wanted to provide iPad training and cell phone training, a tablet training. So I was able to apply for a grant and was able to purchase a few tablets and able to provide that service to folks. They would come in and I'd sit down with them and show them how to use it, how to unplug it, how to start it, how to set it up, and the whole thing. And that was provided from a grant from
Please describe your experience in the following areas: preparing and presenting budgets, and with grant writing.
Okay, I've done budgets. I have certainly looked at them and seeing if maybe things maybe need to be changed around, or if there's other things that are more prioritized. If there's something that needs to be taken care of within the building, making sure that that's taken care of, and then kind of putting things that need to be put on the back burner for maybe the next year. Regarding grants, as I mentioned a minute ago, I have applied for them. I know how to do them. I've applied for several different grants over the years, and have been able to obtain them through different, whether it's a foundation or the state. I've also applied for some of those as well.
Can you tell us something that you have failed at and how you handled it?
Something I failed at. Something I failed at. Let's see. I guess, we had a person that was difficult to deal with within the center. And trying to find a way to help with that was difficult. Because she certainly was entitled to participate. However, her behavior was something that was not tolerable. Just very rude comments were made. Just the behavior was not acceptable. So trying to get her to understand that was very difficult. I had, I talked with her privately a few times. I had talked with the board about it. I had talked with the mayor about it. Still was a struggle. It was difficult to try and figure out a way to get this person to stop the behavior, and I had a hard time with that. And a letter was certified to her. She refused to pick it up. So they, we tried different things, but it just didn't work. And I think some of the folks finally started telling her that she needed to stop, but it still was not something that she was willing to do. So that was something I really struggled with. Even though I went through the channels, and we did end up creating a behavioral policy, which finally we were able to put into place, and she finally stopped some of the behavior, but some of the behaviors did continue. So.
Finally, is there anything that you would like us to know about you that will aid us in making that decision, or do you have any questions for the board?
I do have questions. I have just a couple. One is what is a challenge that you would see me tackling with, first?
Okay, as you probably know, the first immediate challenge will be that we've already started into the budget process for next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the budgets have been started. I'm pretty sure Lorraine, I haven't spoken with her in the last 10, 12 days, but, has started in on that. But that is probably first and foremost, first thing that's gonna be the first hurdle to get over is that budget. And guidelines have been sent out to each of the departments at this point and what the expectations are, what we think we're gonna have, and so on. So that's the very first hurdle you gotta get over is that budget. And so I see that, and that it would involve some presentations publicly to the finance committee,
Mm-hmm.
make perhaps to this board, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually to a town meeting,
Okay.
a regular town, where everybody comes in and votes on the budget.
Right.
So that's the first challenge. And then I guess probably setting up, the second challenge would be setting up the programs within that budget and trying to make things work within whatever we get, so, you know, generally the town has given what has been requested at the town meeting, so there was quite a bit of flexibility going on, but, so we're just starting the process, but, that's the first hurdle to get over right off quick, is make sure the budget is into the finance committee, so.
Okay, good to know. So I guess that would be part of my next question, the answer to, but, other than the budget, what would be the most important thing that would be accomplished within the first 60 days?
Okay, Matt?
Especially since we've combined with Hardwick, is identifying all your resources. The resources that the town of Berry can provide, the resources that Hardwick might be able to provide, and figuring out how those mix. And the reason I say the first 60 days is it does tie with the budget in a way, because this combination really didn't happen in time to prepare this current fiscal year budget. We came up some quick agreements, but it wasn't like we had a lot of time to plan it into the budget, because it happened right about the time we were building the budget. If I recall, it happened right towards the end of the fiscal year, didn't it, last year? Just
Yep.
as we went into town meeting, it was like, we think we can do this. Am I wrong? Was that the
No,
timing?
I think it was just before ATM.
Just before.
Get that.
That would be your other town,
I believe it was just.
Include us.
making sure both councils on aging feel included in the process and where you're going.
Okay. So, my understanding though, Hardwick closed, so they no longer have a,
They don't have a center, does not mean they don't necessarily have a council on aging. They have a council, they just don't have a center. So
Okay.
that's what got merged, was, in a way, the facility. And then sharing activities and events.
okay, so
Some
do
of
we
the-
know what happened to their formula grant money?
Well,
They still get it.
They would still get it?
They still do get it.
So it doesn't get merged?
I get that, but that, as part of the contract, is turned over
It turns over
to
Oh, I
Barry.
see, I see.
So
Okay,
they
that
still,
would help with the-
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that
They're-
comes, that's part of the agreement is the,
But that's more, again, the whole, in 60 days, figure all of that out.
I see.
Don't get me wrong, I'm just,
Okay,
because
very
we
little
might have a
already.
good understanding, but I'm sure we're missing some of the details, trying to cram it into a 5-minute.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Sorting it, just like you said, sorting it out and generally sorting out the whole position, you know.
Okay.
As, I think Andrew did a good job when he came in, trying to, figure out your relationships with different people and boards in town and the personnel, the council. Just really trying to get yourself settled in and sorted out is, pretty important.
Okay,
To understand the relationships with everyone before you try to get too involved in what's going on. You really know how it fits.
I mean, you will answer to Andrew under our personnel
Mhm.
organizational chart, but in a way, we all answer to the town, which means we answer to the council on aging and the members that are.
Right.
So it's that balance.
exactly, yep. Did I answer all of your questions? Do I have anything, any questions that I didn't complete that I can clarify or that needs clarification?
did you have anything else for,
Did I have anything else? No, I had, when I met with the board, I had some other questions that they had helped answer, so.
okay. I just have one question, and you kind of answered it as you went through, but as you know, some of the, you will be probably the front person on all of the programs and the budgets included, and there will be some budget presentation and that sort of thing, which mostly is, a lot of it's at night, in the not at night, I don't want to make it sound like late night, but evenings, to be kind, I guess. But have you had much experience in dealing with the media and media relations and that sort of thing?
Yes. I have. No problem.
Okay,
Done it before.
okay.
I'm just curious about the process of what you folks are gonna do from here after you're done tonight.
Okay, well, there's a possibility we could make the decision this evening. We are interviewing 4, as you may be aware, and 4 finalists. And we could make the decision this evening. I'm not sure about that right now, but it's going to be fairly soon, because there's a, we have a pretty eminent need for the position. So it's going to be fairly soon. The position would be available fairly soon afterwards, as soon as practical. I guess that's the best answer I can give you right
Okay,
now. But
understandable.
it's going to be moving right along. Okay?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for coming in.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Al.
Thank you.
Thank God.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks.
Good,
Nice to meet you.
You
Thank
too.
Okay, who do we have?
Kimberly Coots is the next one.
What?
Kimberly is the next.
Oh, Kimberly? Okay.
I'll go grab her if you guys are all set.
Yep. Come right in, sit up with the board. My name's Charlie Chase, Chairman of the board.
Hi, Charlie.
Greg O'Sullivan?
Hi, Greg.
Hello, Kim.
Hi,
Matt,
how are you?
okay.
Hi,
Nice to meet you.
Andrew, our town administrator. Have a seat wherever. Okay, thank you. Just to let you know, we are doing the interviews tonight. We're trying to go through and ask very similar questions. And also to let you know that this is an open meeting. And it is being televised. It is not being televised live, but there is a delay, so at some point it'll be on television. Just to let you know, not to add anything to the pressure here, but it goes with what we do. You know, we're a public body, and that's just the way final things like this are handled by this particular board. So what we're thinking of, what we're doing is we're asking that the candidates give a brief background of what they feel they bring to the position and the qualities that they have for the position. And we have some questions, and then you'll have the opportunity to ask us some questions or comments or whatever you want to do. So I guess I can turn the floor over to you and ask you to give us a brief background, a little bit about your background and how it might help.
For over 25 years, I've been in administrative assistant position. I have done everything from managing and supervising people beneath me. I've written grants. I have worked with vacant and foreclosed properties. I can run most computer programs. So anyone I've touched, I master. It takes a little bit, but I get it down quite well. I'm very creative. Creative ways of dealing with things, dealing with issues. So I know that would help. I do my research before I decided that this was definitely something I want to do. So I asked around. I asked people that work down there. I've asked some of the women that go to the senior center. I've also asked people that don't go and asked them why. Try to get a basic idea on what I'm getting into. So I know that with some of my ideas to be creative, you know, take what we already have, I don't look to make a ton of changes. You can't fix what's not broken. I don't know what's broken. I can't say what exactly I would do. But I did check into a few things because I heard a lot that they go to use their computer and their son or their daughter come over to help them and they go, do. See, Mom, did you get it? And they say, nope, I have no idea what just happened. So maybe we could get some of the high school students, they get out at 2:05. Even if they came for a half hour, 45 minutes, once a week, sat down with somebody and just gave them some basic ideas on how to do things. That would be taking some of the resources we already have in town and using them for our benefit. The kids need 45 hours to graduate. Community service. What better way than to help out? Things like that. The other thing that they were worried, my phone, my cell phone, my app is here and now it's gone. I can't get onto this, I can't get onto that. I can do a cell phone. I can pretty much do a computer and everything. But I haven't met a teenager yet that can't look at it and tell you exactly what went wrong. So again, those are resources we have in town. So maybe we can somehow use some of that.
Okay. Now, I guess I'll turn the floor over to Andrew, and he'll ask questions on behalf of the board.
Yeah, so I'll be going through each one of the questions after I say them, just address it to the board. So please tell us why you are interested in becoming the next Council on Aging Director, and what about Barry makes it a community that you want to work in?
The aging, I like working with elder people. I'm not calling them old, because they're not. They have a ton of information. I have learned more from talking to somebody older than I have ever learned from talking to somebody younger. And I like that. I like that whole thing. And I think they have a lot to share and a lot that we all can learn. And it's fun. So right there, you know, if you're going to work every day going, oh my God, I gotta go to work today, you're miserable, nobody's happy, nothing really gets accomplished. But if you like what you do, you're working with people, and that's what I'd like to do. I've worked for the city of Worcester and I helped their residents. I work for the town of Holden now and I help their residents. I've lived in Barry for 16 years. Maybe it's time that I start working in Barry and helping our residents.
If selected as director, what types of programs do you plan on initiating at the senior center?
I'd really like to see what's going on there first. Other than maybe getting a student to come in to help with maybe some computer things for them, maybe a cell phone once in a while. I don't want to go in and change anything I don't know. I'd like to go. I see the activities they have. The people that are coming seem to be quite content and happy with what they have going on. I don't think I wanna start making a whole bunch of changes until, unless there's something broken. If it's broken, it needs to be repaired, we need more people or whatnot, let's find out what they are. I don't wanna just go in and change it.
The town of Barry recently regionalized our senior center with the town of Hardwick. How would you work with the Barry and Hardwick Councils on Aging and the residents of each town to improve the operations of the senior center?
Well, that would depend on what they want. I would need to speak to them. If you have a plan and you know where you want the senior center to go, and maybe that needs to be shared first. So I think open communication would probably be the best with that, is to go speak to them and find out what they need, and same with Barry. More communication and then work around that. Try to put a plan together using the information that you have. I don't have enough information to give you any direct answers.
How do you view your role in working with the Council on Aging, town administrator, and residents?
I think a lot of communication, working with what needs to be done, taking the potential, that building has great potential, the senior center has great potential, let's find out what it is. And those are the people that you need to talk to find out. We need a lot of communication first to fix it, or find it. Is it broken? Is it broken? No. That's what my question, I'm just having.
Understood, and I can't answer that, so that's why I'm not answering.
No.
What do you see as the most difficult issues to deal with as a Council on Aging director?
Constant changing, elderly get ill. People they come and then they may be gone for a month, so, because they're very ill, so probably attendance would be something that would be kinda hard. And finding out what the needs of the elderly are and working with them that way.
Give an example during your employment history of when you had to think outside of office.
I worked at the city of Worcester for 13 years, and I was just a clerk, just like everybody else, and the inspectors were going out and they couldn't find ownership of buildings because we went through the foreclosure when that went crazy. And the banks didn't foreclose correctly on the properties. So the banks didn't quite own them, but the people didn't own them and they walked. So we had a lot of properties with a lot of tenants, and nobody could do anything. So I worked with Amanda Wilson, which is the director, and at the time Paul Vigno, and we put together a program for the vacant and foreclosed properties. I did a ton of research, and I found the head of banks, like Ocwen and Deutsche Bank and Bank of America, and we fought to get contacts through these banks. Finally got everything we needed, and we started a whole program where I could actually have direct contact with the bank, so I would know this property, I could look up the deed, and I could tell that this property was in the process of foreclosure, and it was in foreclosure with this bank and this bank and this bank, and I had the contact and the means to reach these people and get those properties taken care of. And it started, literally, I was a clerk just trying to find an owner for a property, and it was becoming harder and harder. So we just dug deeper, did more research.
Please describe your experience in the following areas: with preparing and presenting budgets, and with grant writing.
I worked with grant writing. I helped write the grant for saddling for air, water, and hazardous material up in the city of Worcester. And I was paid through a grant for the foreclosures. So I was the one that gathered all the information and worked directly with Amanda to write the grant that paid me. So that was that. So I have a little bit of experience with that. And the other part of that question?
Preparing and presenting budgets.
I have 6 kids, and I've always been able to budget my house pretty good. I ran all play entertainment. It was DJs, bands, karaoke for many years with my ex-husband. So I was able to budget to make sure that all the DJs were paid and the equipment was repaired and fixed. Then we had to do advertising, promotions, and I was able to keep everything. I never went in the red.
Can you tell us something about, or can you tell us about something that you have failed at and how you handled it?
Well, that list is longer. Failed. That one's rough. You're talking about through work, right? Not personal.
However you wanna frame it.
Try not to fail. Try to learn when you do. I moved in to Barry. My marriage was falling apart, and I lived in a camper with 4 children. That's how I ended up in Barry many years ago. When I came to Barry, I had nothing. I was able to get a job and get it, but my biggest failure was probably my marriage. That was very hard. And you just start it over. And you just pick up the pieces that you have left and start over. And that's what I did.
Is there anything else that you would like, is there anything else you would like us to know about you that will aid us in making a decision? And do you have any questions for the board?
About me. I like to be busy. I like to keep doing things. I like working with people. I like to talk to people. I like to hear what they've got to say. I like to try to help find solutions to problems. Really good at research, so that helps. Just because I don't know, I can usually find the right person to ask. If I can't, I will get online and find it one way or another. So, and once I've got it in my mind, I can't put it out until I've got the right answer. So it takes a while sometimes. I don't have a lot of questions. I've been checking around a little bit on different things, and like, I asked questions about how the budget worked. I asked about coming to council, which I guess it's one of those things you do every so often. You come to the council meetings. I asked about how the bills and things were taken care of. So I did ask a lot of questions. What type of grants are they looking for the age of counseling? Is there ones that we just do every year that this is regarding, or are we looking for new ones?
There's some that we apply for each year. I guess they're called like a formula type grant.
Mhm.
Those are, I won't say they're automatic, but they're more routine. And then whatever other type of grants that we can find, be creative and just try, maybe write a few grants,
Looking them up.
yeah, just
Yeah, I
whatever
was
we
doing a
can
little
find
research.
basically to stretch the local money as much as we can. So, if you,
Now, can they take donations through the senior center? That's my next question.
yes,
Primarily through the council on, Friends of the Council on Aging.
yeah, yeah, the town, it's pretty touchy with the town taking them directly because,
So you just go through the aging of council?
But it'd be actually the Friends of the Council. It's not the actual council itself that
Okay.
accepts the donation.
yeah, because the council's a public body, so,
Because one of the things I'd like to do is see if we can get a computer down there for them to learn basic
Mhm.
things on. I have family and friends that work for some very big companies, and one of the things they said is that because you're doing, it's nonprofit, the Aging of Council, the senior center is considered nonprofit, that you could write and request things like a computer. They'll donate it. They throw theirs away. When they're done with it, they throw it out. But if you get to them and ask, they will donate it to you. But I need to know if that's even something you're allowed to do.
There are certain means and methods, but yes, sir, you gotta make sure you follow the right path.
Right.
Otherwise, exactly, it'll look not good to the public.
Right.
The
That will-
town's able to accept, you know, like if they're able to give away a computer or something like that, but monetary donations is another whole thing. So,
I wasn't looking for money.
Yes.
So-
No, right, but
That-
in general, it's just depending on the source,
Yeah, and
would
just
depend
follow
on
the-
how it could come
Yeah.
back to the Council on Aging.
Normal, follow the line. There's rules. I get that.
Okay. I have a question, and that dealing with media relations, and which is a pretty important component of the position. And if you have any experience doing that, and how would you go about initiating it? And
I don't have experience with the media. But there's, we dealt with it a lot down in Worcester, quite a bit.
Mhm.
And there was, you just knew what to say and what not to say. You know, I suppose I would just hold my head up high and answer the questions that I could answer, and the ones I couldn't, I would refer them back to the council.
Okay. Okay. And some of the work would involve evening work. And just because we deal with things at night, just like this board does, we're all volunteer boards, so that would be part of it. And you'd be the point person on the budget for the Council on Aging and the Senior Center. And that may involve presentation at town meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not worried about
Okay. Do you have any other questions for us, sir?
that. Not right now.
Okay.
It's hard to think right off the bat. My biggest one was to see, you know, if I could, if there is a way to do that, to get the computers.
Okay.
Because I've been just basic, looking, because I asked questions, like I said. I've been asking different people different questions so that I have an idea. And the last time they asked me, what would you change? That seems to be a big question, and I got it here too. So with that, I tried to think of, you know, I suppose, what would I want to change? So I asked people, why do you go, or why don't you go? To say what their reasoning was, you know, and some was just simple, oh, it's really not for me, I'm not old yet. And I heard that quite a bit, I'm not old yet, you know. And the ones down there were, mostly was the phones, their cell phone that they don't know how to use, and the computer that only works when their son comes over.
Okay.
I guess I would just have one other question, and I didn't think to ask this of the other two, and that's partly shame on me, was, you mentioned your willingness for research, problem solving, things like that, if keywords I thought I remember you saying. How much would you put into training for the position? Give an opportunity for different organizations that'll speak to you about municipal government and the rules and regs and the opportunities that might come up.
As much
It
as
might be around, during, off schedule, who knows? I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
As much as I can get. You can always do better with the more you know. So I would love, I'd love that,
Okay,
you know. The more information I know, the more training, the better.
Okay, very good. We thank you for your interest in coming in, and we will be making a decision fairly soon. We could make it tonight, I'm not sure though. Can't say that for sure. Okay? We thank you very much. Thank you for your
Bye, it
time.
was nice to meet you.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
Matt, it was nice seeing you
Good to
again.
meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Bye, it was nice to meet you.
Do you want your notebook?
Oh, yeah. That was mine, just in case there was something I wanted to jot down. but
Sure.
It was similar questions to what they asked her last time. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Charlie and Andrew get back.
I see people on Facebook, they're getting many inches of snow up in Vermont and Maine.
Are they? Good for them.
They can have it.
Let it melt and flow down and give us the water in the spring, I'm all fine with that.
We did.
I did hear about that, I must have gotten out of town just before it really came in.
Yeah, it was
Saw a little white
very
on
light,
the
yeah.
brown
Very
and then.
light, it didn't,
So it was like little pearls of snow, it wasn't really flakes. It was there.
Somebody opened the cardboard, or the cardboard packaging on the.
Exactly. Yeah, it looked like that
Styrofoam packaging.
perlite insulation almost, the little small pieces of white stuff.
The cat or the dog got into the box of all the styrofoam and it's everywhere now.
Yep.
Ran all around town, it did.
You literally have to vacuum the cat because it just won't come off with the static.
Normal Christmas tree on the box, all the ornaments.
No, it's cold. I'm not comfortable. It's cold, it's cold.
It's cold in here.
It's cold in here.
Still like 62.
I'm just used to dealing with this. I could work outside in this, in a t-shirt. Couple hours anyways.
As long as I'm moving, it's when I sit down, all of a sudden it's like, you know.
yes.
When my feet start to feel cool, I know it's getting cold.
Yeah.
My hands are, cool to the touch.
Remind me to get some of those 3M, you know, the hooks, 3M hooks for these wires under here. That drives me crazy.
Thought you were fishing for people there, they're gonna trip up
Yeah,
on
you know,
them.
like the ones you can, they make now, you can clip the wires and they hang underneath
I
there.
know, I thought she was gonna.
Drives me crazy. I'm gonna order one right now.
Drill some holes through this table so we can just feed them right up through the middle.
Scotch tape and take it up to the table.
That's what
Gotta
we've
drill
always
in a
done, it
quarter
doesn't
inch
work.
bit.
That's why I think if we
Even
get
Even
some
a
of
half
the
inch bit,
3M
I'll just
ones.
drill
Yeah.
some holes and we'll just wire it right through.
Looks like a half inch would do it.
And then somebody will come after me because some historical significance of the table I didn't realize when I started going.
Yes, because this is quite the piece. This table
I
was
don't
from,
This table,
Oh,
I think,
it's
was
a piece
donated
all
from the
right.
Worcester County Sheriff's Office.
we
Okay.
can't say what it's a piece of, but it's a piece.
Or the bag.
Yeah.
Piece of the Nina, the Pinto, or the Santa Maria, we're not sure yet.
It's a piece of wood.
So Andrea is quite excited.
Yeah. We are too.
I know.
But she changed our menu.
She may have.
She may have. We went for potluck.
Interesting choice.
And went to
This is an
Cuba.
interesting
No?
choice.
Well, we're gonna
I
have
wasn't.
potluck dessert and appetizers.
I didn't notice a change.
I didn't know until today she came down to the center.
Andrea is very organized when it comes to meals.
I hear she's got catering.
She does, yeah. Yeah, so she thought it would be good just to have a real meal and then
Get back
have,
ahead
and
of
a
schedule.
potluck dessert and appetizers.
I don't care what we have, I just want
That's
to
all right.
drink.
Yeah.
See how we do. You never know. It's always fun to sit and evaluate afterwards. You come up with totally different, or similar kinds of views.
At the senior center.
Oh, we-
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta.
That's
get
always a fun
outside.
part.
Yeah.
Take
But
playing
I
cards,
like
you
to-
lay your hand on the table after we all look
should.
and
I
say, you
think
thought
we
that.
should.
Really?
Yeah, it should be open.
I didn't
I
get
think
that
so,
at all,
too.
but I guess I can see that.
It'd be
That's,
good to have
that's where it
Good
goes
for
from
the-
there.
For the town to see us all working together.
Figured out.
Well, we always have, so it's good that we
It wasn't-
have
it
more.
wasn't-
We had,
they don't see that.
and we had a great time at lunch.
Sit back.
We did.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
we
was
were-
excellent. We
well, you're
were
scoring too, I
invited,
assume.
we
It counts.
My
sat
head,
down at the
yeah.
senior
It
center
counts.
council on
No,
aging,
no,
and
right.
they
If
let
it
us out
counts,
for
I'll go back
lunch.
through it, so.
And we had a
It
great
counts,
time.
'cause
I
we-
think almost
was-
everybody
I'm sure
from up
everyone's
here
opinion,
went.
including yours.
Almost everybody, yep.
I was more focused.
The raw number doesn't necessarily mean anything, but.
Oh, that was good.
Hi.
One up front.
Familiar faces, hello. You need a little bit of breadcrumbs, but.
Hi, Mary. Greg O'Sullivan.
Greg, is it?
Yeah.
Hi.
Charlie Chase.
Hi, hi. Get you over here.
Matter.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, Faye Zukowski.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Mary
you.
Carpenter.
Good to meet you, Mary.
That's yours. That's a little big.
Staying quiet, that's what I'm happy about.
You all set?
Yes, I am,
Okay.
thanks.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to let you know that this is a public meeting that we are in, and the meeting is televised. It is not being televised live tonight, but so it's on a delay. But just to let you know that.
Sure, thanks.
We have to have our meetings, public forum at this point, so. I guess we can start out by asking you if you wanted to give us a description of your background and what would make you a strong candidate to be the Council on Aging Director and Director
Sure.
of the Senior Center.
Sure, I think I have well, my background is diverse. I had started out, first going into sociology and psychology. Wanted to be a teacher, Proposition 2.5, squashed that. So I wanted to go into the field of counseling. I did, if you notice my resume, I got a master's in criminal justice just because I was interested in that kind of stuff. So that was just for me. But the counseling and rehab at Assumption is something that I think that would be the road I would take. Never heard, my undergrad was always with DCF and children, and I never heard of anything with elderly, like the area agencies. Way back when, until somebody explained it to me, I said, oh, that sounds very interesting. I think that's something I would like to get into. And I started off entry level at Bay Path Elder Care, which is one of the area agencies, such as Worcester Elder Services. And from there, it kind of snowballed that I found out that resident service coordinators do the same thing as case managers, basically, but they're in-house, HUD buildings, in-house, and been doing that for about 17 years. I do my counseling at nighttime. I like to work, I have a bell curve. I like to work with the elderly, but I like to work with the kids too. So at nighttime, I do have a counseling job that I work at, and that's Multicultural Wellness Center. So, human services, always been that way.
Okay, I guess I can turn it over to Andrew and he'll ask questions.
So
We're
I'll
trying
get-
to ask similar questions all the way through of each of the candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And
I'll
you'll
guess-
be given an opportunity to ask us any questions or whatever when you're done,
Okay.
okay?
So I'll be asking each one of the questions and then just address it to the board.
Okay, yes.
So please tell us why you're interested in becoming the next Council on Aging Director, and what about Barry makes it a community that you want to work in?
Well, I like the little towns. I'm not a big city gal. I don't like big city. Being from Worcester all my life, that's a good size, but I like the little towns, close knit. It's easier, I think, to work with people in a smaller group and get to really know them as opposed to a big city. I feel like maybe I'm helping people in a smaller community. As far as the working with the senior center, I just thought past year, I've been thinking, what would I could do to make a difference? I'm very much an advocate. My mother passed away last summer at the age of, 3 weeks shy of her 93rd birthday. As I explained to the board before, I had older parents. My father was 48 when he had me, and my mother was 40, so I was always around older people. I was the little old soul. So I just thought, what could I do in a different direction, but still work with people, still help people? And I've been in a lot of senior centers to know how they function, the different programs that I've been in, or activities or whatever. And I just thought this would be something I would really be interested in. And then when I saw Barry, and I'm like, it's a small town, as the board had explained, a lot of it's on volunteer. I was very interested to know that they didn't have like an outreach per se, which is something I think is important, because there's shut-ins, there's people that are isolated, you know, you don't know what's going on as far as mental health, you know, so I think Barry has a nice foundation to be able to help in the senior center, but also to do some outreach. And I just thought of ways of, I know with budgets and things, that I think I'm resourceful enough to possibly interns, you know, other volunteers, people that have that, are looking for a degree. Just thinking about different places, resources I could use to try to, we have the foundation, but I think we need just to build off of it.
If selected as director, what types of programs do you plan on initiating at the Barry Senior Center?
I did bring a copy, as I did when I went for my first interview. This is just a sample. I spoke to one woman that was there at the board, and she said that that was her job to do the activities. Well, of course, I don't want to step on toes. I mean, I'm new. I want to learn from people. I want people to tell me what works and what doesn't work and what we can figure out together. So I don't know if you just want, I do different, I don't know if you want to look at this or not, but I noticed that when I went on your website, you do have a blood pressure group. We have the Mass School Pharmacy, and so health sciences come into my building where I'm at now that do nursing programs. So I'm all about education, trying to educate people, so I think that's important. Because just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you don't want to stop learning, you know, you want to, you know. And for entertainment, we have, at my place, we do have out to lunch, we have shopping day, which I'm sure some of those things are done here. We have movie day. I don't know if anybody wants to look at that, but I could, if you're interested. But I'm very much into activities. I would work with that person, try to think of, like I said, what works, what doesn't work. And some things just don't work. You try them out, you gotta give it a try, and then, but that was just a sample of this past month.
The town of Barry recently regionalized our senior center with the town of Hardwick. How would you work with the Barry and Hardwick Councils on Aging and the residents of each town to improve the operations of the senior center?
Well, as I said in my first meeting, that communication's the key. You know, I don't know how, you know, how people felt maybe losing their own senior center. That could maybe harbor, you know, some people don't like change, and that could, so we have to bring in the community together. I think having, introducing myself, communication, having an open door, you know, having people come in to make sure that this is their home as well. I don't know, I'm all about communication and listening, open to a policy. I think I would go out into their community, you know, have a meeting, I mean, obviously have a welcome to, and if, you know, I'd like to meet you and hear your issues or what, you know, you would like to see in your own town, and we can work together. It's a blended marriage, so you just have to make it work.
How do you view your role in working with the Council on Aging, town administrator, and residents?
Could you repeat the first part?
How do you view your role in working with the Council on Aging, town administrator, and residents?
I am a vehicle, and you people are the ones that put the gas in it and have me go to certain places, so I'm not the boss. You know, we have this foundation, whether it was working or not, I don't know, obviously, but I figure I listen to my bosses, and I have no problem with, you know, suggestions or going to somebody and saying, am I going on the right path? What could I do? I'm not the type of kid that has my hand in the cookie jar and goes, no, that wasn't me eating the cookie. You know, I'm like, what did I do? Could you please tell me, set me in the right path? So I'm very open for constructive criticism and working together. I mean, you have to, like I said, effective communication. And I have no problem with people telling me what I may be doing or what you would like to see differently.
What do you see as the most difficult issues to deal with as a council on aging director?
Right up there would probably be, to be honest, would probably be a budget, to stick to that budget. I talked in the first meeting that I understand sometimes if you don't use it, you'll lose it, but you have to be creative and resourceful. The other thing is sometimes, stick to your agenda. And sometimes it can be, I noticed, it goes back to communication. Sometimes people just don't get along sometimes. And where I work now, people unfortunately don't always get along, and you want peace and harmony and all that, and sometimes it doesn't work. So I'm not into the gossip and the hearsay, I don't allow that. I tell people where I work now, I'm not the school monitor, you know, so if you have a private issue, one of my places right now where I've been working, it's one thing to have racism or somebody go, oh, you're fat. That's my job, to make sure that that does not continue. But it's another thing if Sally goes, she looked at me the wrong way, you know. We need to learn to get along here. So that's one thing sometimes I find when people get into a group, sometimes there's, you know, little problems that we have to nip in the bud, but I don't want to get involved with that. I just want to have a solution for it. If people come to me, I'm a go-getter as far as coming up with solutions. I'm very organized. I think I have some very positive qualities that some things you do have to get involved with and some things you don't.
Give an example during your employment history when you think outside of the box.
Thinking outside the box. I'm thinking of something working with as a counselor, but let me try to. There's a lot of things. I don't know if I can pinpoint one certain thing. What I find, well, I don't know, I think this is trying to please everybody. You can't do that. So when people would come to me and say, we need to do this, or we need to do that. I think one of the things that I tend to like where I work right now is kind of like majority rules. So come up with a third solution maybe. They want to do this, somebody wants to do that. I'll try to come up with a third solution. I try to be the devil's advocate. I try to think outside the box like that, and give choices and options. So, but as, well, I have counseling issues. This is about senior center, but I could go on a few of those, but I don't think you want to hear about that.
Please describe your experience in the following areas: with preparing and presenting budgets, and with grant writing.
Grant writing, to be honest, I have not the most experience. I've written 3 that were successful. I have plenty of resources to have people aid me. I'm sure that if I had a situation where I needed somebody that has more experience with me, I'm sure would help me. I'm not afraid to seek out and ask for advice. I have a friend that is a grant writer. So I use my resources like that to feel comfortable. And obviously, I would assume I would have the support of other people while I'm doing it to get me on that right path. But I have had 3 who were successful.
Can you tell us about something that you failed at and how you handled it?
Where I work, there's a woman who's a sociopath. And that can be very dangerous. And she has caused problems in the building, and with HUD there has been violations, but it hasn't moved forward. So I just try to be her best friend, smile, and you get more with sugar than spice. You know, all the old cliches, they work. And what I have done with her is, because I know that I could not, at that point, that was not my job, and I could not handle it all. I did an elder risk on her. She was in denial that she needed any issues. She was abusing her husband, so, you know, it's a lot to it, but she she still doesn't like me. That kind of bothers me. I mean, but as far as doing my job, I did my job. I got elder at risk. I check on her, you know, weekly. That was our deal, to make sure that everything's okay in her house and she has acted out towards people. And yeah, I kind of feel like, oh, you know, can't be buddy pal with everybody, but you try. And yeah, she still does not like me, but she got the services that she needed, and she also got the help that she needed. And it worked with, they told her actually that, we had a conference, and they said, let's try it this way. We're gonna tell her we're here to help her with anxiety, taking care of her husband. So we're gonna give her, she'll take some medicine to help because she's so caring and giving to her husband. She needs this. And so that worked, and I'm glad I had done that. The only part that I was disappointed in is that I wish she would trust me more. We had a more bonded relationship, I guess. So, but I go in there very professional and how you doing today, and get the job done, but not warm fuzzies.
Is there anything else that you would like us to know about you that will aid us in making a decision? And do you have any questions for the board?
Yes. Let's see. Well, when we start off with the questions, does it matter? Goals and objectives, do you have any specific goals and objectives that you would like to see done that maybe the town, just like I said, there's a foundation. I'm not the only one that would build this house. What would be goals and objectives that you would like to see that I know you would want done differently or the same?
I guess the best answer to that is we, as an elected board, generally defer to the council on aging as to what they would like to have done. That one goal, just, primary goal from our perspective is to provide the service and, maximize as much funding as we can.
Right.
I guess that would be the best way to answer that, but,
Anybody else want to add to that, or
Sure.
what your goals are?
Something Matthew pointed out with our last candidate as well is that, we've recently merged with Hardwick.
Yes.
And we didn't really have a lot of time to evaluate how that's gonna fit best. And we came up with a Hasty agreement to make things work. So, looking to make sure that's fitting properly and is really smooth for both towns involved and everyone involved. So we really did it probably in 2 weeks flat. It was really just thrown together quickly.
Yeah.
So we were gonna revisit the plan. We really haven't revisited to look at it and evaluate it. So that would be something I think is important to get it flowing. And personally, something I was going to begin to work on with the former director was just activities for the seniors. I look forward to, I would rather see more diverse activities, more functions that may get them out and about, or more involved functions down there. Other than just, card day or something else. I'd like to see outings. I'd like to see a cookout in the summer. I'd like to see a night like, everybody likes to go to have a fundraiser. Why can't we have a raffle and gather some things and do a dinner? I've seen a lot of things in the town I've done a lot of work for. I'm hoping to see more of that.
From what I understood, it's not your own van, or
It's community
It is,
Delta
oh.
bus, right? Right.
it's from this town, or is it?
No.
Okay.
Depending on the town you're speaking of, based on our agreement, there are different resources for Hardwick and there's different resources for Barry.
Okay.
The Elder Bus is issued to Barry through, is it a state program?
Yeah.
Something like that, but we have certain rights to use it for certain reasons for certain people. So there are boundaries on how it can be used. You can't
Okay.
just,
Right.
nobody's using it and then just any random person can use
Yeah.
it.
And hours of operation as well.
But there are certain things that people don't realize you can use it for if it's not being used, and understanding that really makes a huge difference on how you use that resource.
Okay.
And that's kind of one of the things that will be really important, like a goal is truly learning all your resources, because from my understanding, and I've never been a director or heavily involved, but I've been around elder affairs and similar programs. And my understanding is your resources pretty much go as far as you're willing to look.
Right.
Because it's not like, here's the box and here's the book to say where you can get what you want. It's, once you get to the last page, better go look for another book.
Mhm.
Because they're out there, but it's not easy to find them all. And it's not easy to even realize that a resource may not even know that they are a resource. Unless you go and ask and you find these. So that's, I guess, kind of what I'm saying is one of the challenges I always found as something you, if you become a director, would need to figure out how to incorporate into your job.
Yes, okay. What you're saying about where I work now, they said, would you mind going to the DOT and getting trained? And I'm like, oh, okay. All I could think of was the wheels on the bus go round and round. I'm like, what am I doing today? And so I went to the DOT. I was nervous and I learned how to drive the van and hook them up. So that's part of most people don't do that. That's a little extra I do. And we do go the ice cream, and they love the dinner and theater, dinner shows, So as I was driving here, that's what I was curious about, how the van and how that works, because I'm always thinking about, let's keep people entertained. I don't want to see people at home. My mother was in a nursing home before she passed. I don't want them people just to sit there. Just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you don't have, it's a choice. I retired, I'm done, that's fine. But there's plenty of things that can still be had out there. So, yeah, absolutely. I think I'm very good with, I've networked for 20 years, I've resourced, I worked at Fitchburg Housing, so I learned out that, at that atmosphere, what was available. Then come to Worcester, you just gotta learn, like you said. I'm thinking when you're saying that, my daughter's looking for colleges now. So I'm looking for those scholarships, like, let there be more, so that, just when you were saying that, I was kind of laughing to myself, saying, oh, I know, you keep on looking. And thank God for the internet and all that, because there are so many things out there. Yeah, so, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. So the goals and objectives kind of goes hand in hand. I just threw this in here, the expectations of me. It's kind of like the same thing, the goals, I would say, and objectives, unless I'm thinking of that wrong. What would be the expectations of me, other than the obvious, running it, peace and harmony, open communication, getting people busy doing things. I've tried, we tried cultural diversity. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. Potluck dinners, but everybody's different. So I would have to see what, like I said, I would go in there, introduce myself, open door, people that I work for, people that I work for, and people that are volunteers. I'd like them to all come in and feel heard, because it's nothing like thinking that you're being ignored and not being listened to. And when people are older, they deserve that at least. So, yeah, I'm very much for open door and listening to everybody. And, I may have something that won't work, so we learn from that and we go on. The budget, when I had asked during the first interview, was really, at that point, I didn't know there was just volunteers. It was just me, and then keeping the place running. So, as far as staff, it's volunteers. I just wanted to make sure, and as I had already said, do work on internships, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. There's always people out there, because one of the things I saw on the internet, and I'm like, oh, so how do people like at Hardwick and all that are new to here, how are they gonna know? And no offense, it was a great banner on the website, but most places that you do go to, you click on, and there's like what I did, or, well, I wanna go there, but I don't know what's going on, where's the communication? So I had asked about mailers, and they said, well, that would be part of the budget, and that could be costly. Maybe we could get people to deliver them, kids to deliver, figure out something. Everything's doable. Because of the people a lot of people, I'm the last of the baby boomers, as I was explaining. I was born in '64, so I'm the last one, but doesn't mean that people at 70, 75 don't know how to use a computer, but some don't, and they choose not to. So how are we gonna get them? Yes, I can go out there and say, and shake hands, that's fine. But I just think either mailers or, as I was explaining, I understood somebody had done the activities and they were there, but how are we gonna get them there? So I was thinking van and just outreach, I already mentioned that, and networking. Activities is no issue. Sometimes I have a lot of speakers, sometimes because I've been there for so long, people call me up. I had this man come in, didn't know me, he was like, oh, I just, about insurance time, which is always good, because this time of the year, you have to make choices, and sometimes people get a little confused and it's overwhelming, so at certain times of the year, I would have speakers come in, appropriate different times, to have them come in. In the website, I understood that was gonna be overhauled and possibly, so.
Just started programming this week.
Yeah, oh, would be a good thing. And just getting to know the board better, and as well as the people that work there and the members. And I did have a question, because I went on blind faith, because it wasn't really listed here about the hours, but I was told. But is this a benefit? It is for 30 hours? Okay, I just,
37 and a half, I believe is what.
Mhm.
I was told, okay, so it's 37 and a half?
Mhm.
Okay, that was,
Yeah, anything over 20 would we offer benefits for.
but this job would be 37 and a half or 30?
It's based off 37 and a half, I believe.
The benefits are anything over
Yeah,
20.
anything over 20.
Okay.
Anything over 20 is benefited.
But yes,
We
we are
believe
looking
it's-
on 37.5 hours a week on average from the director.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was told 30, 35, so I'm glad that was brought up, okay.
Okay, and I have one question. Important part of the job, there is some night work involved with this. We're all volunteer boards, that includes this
Oh,
board.
okay.
And the finances, you would be the point person with the budget and to the finance committee and possibly to town meeting as well. And just to let you know that. And then also experience in dealing with the media relations, press releases, things of that nature. Do you have experience in that area?
No, to be honest, no, people have come in to take pictures for our magazines, but, it's not speaking, it's just allowing pictures to come in for the
Okay.
people and for myself, signed, but not as far as talking. Sometimes less is better. Less said is better. Revert to the boss.
Okay. Okay, do you have any other questions for us?
I'll probably have like 5 more when I go down the street to Worcester.
Okay.
But, or 2 o'clock this morning when I'm laying in bed, but no, not right now. I think
Okay.
I hit my list a couple of times over.
Alrighty, we thank you for your interest
thank
in
you.
Barry, and
Thank
thank you for
you.
coming in.
Thank
And,
you. Boost myself up. With a
Thank you
little
very
more.
much.
Thank you for your time as well.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
You?
Thank you very much, Mike.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
Nice, thank
Do you
you
want
for your
this back,
time.
or-
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, how do we want to proceed on this?
I don't know, I've scored them off the scores. My numerical numbers don't necessarily correlate to my ranking of them.
Mhm.
But, once again, that's not the intention to go rough strictly by the scores, because experiences and different things and how people phrase their answers,
Mm-hmm.
to me.
Right.
Just because I didn't answer the question well, doesn't mean that it takes away from the candidate. But, I don't know if you want to hear all the scores, if you just want me to rate them, as far as my ranking I could do.
Yeah, I don't know, Matt, what would you like?
Because we chose the score thing, we'll probably have to submit them just for the record for the meeting minutes. I think, didn't we do that before, or just?
I think they're relevant part of it, but I don't think it's,
But,
It's the only
for me,
part, yeah.
Well, for me, it's not the deciding factor of the score.
no, it's just, I agree, it's a part of the process.
There's nothing in the score that can rate personality and, you know, how you feel the fit was and things of that nature, so.
Right.
How about, we'll go through them, each candidate, and I'll write down everyone's raw scores, and we'll just get a total of the score numbers and see total point-wise how each one came out of the scores, and then we can have a further discussion about the candidates, if you like.
Sounds good.
We want
Okay.
to pass them into,
Well, no, can we read them out unless you're objection to it? I scored, first candidate, I scored it, Joan at a 68.
okay.
So I don't know what you guys would have, I'll add them all up and get a total for you.
Okay, and I had her, I scored probably a little lower on everybody, but I scored her 57.
Okay. Matt?
I scored 72.
Okay, and on Eileen, I had an 80.
Okay, and I was at 56.
I had 70.
Geez, usually, God, there's something wrong here. I'm usually the one.
I was gonna say, I'm usually the one that's like, oh, 40. Everybody look at me like, what are you looking at?
All right.
One of these I ran out of points, that's why.
On Kimberly, I had a 71.
Okay, I was at 49 and a half. Don't forget the 50%.
All right.
I had 67.
And lastly, on Mary, I had a 69.
I was at 49.
And I had 59.
All right, now I can finish my tallies there, but so that would put Joan with 197, Eileen with 206, Kimberly with 187, and Mary with 177. So they would rank them number 2, number 1, number 3, and then number 4. Which numerically is different with mine, but opinion-wise, that's where I had them total for my opinion. I did like Eileen. I did agree, I mean, once again, let me say, 4 great candidates.
Yeah,
I would have
very,
no
very
problem
good.
with any one of those 4 being the director. But I did, I did like Joan up front. She seemed to ask us to repeat questions a lot. And just feeling to me seemed a little more rigid, not that it's a bad thing for a directing position, but I really felt Eileen seemed to be a lot warmer, and I really liked her thought in a lot of her answers and how they came across, and my score reflected that I liked her better, a few points better, but my opinion-wise, she was my first choice.
Yeah, she was my first. She seemed to bring a certain enthusiasm to the job, that more enthusiasm. Now, I have to say on a numerical basis that I think it would be a very could learn into the job very, very well, and that would be Kimberly. I think that she could do the job extremely well once she got in. It would be some training, but I think we could she could do the job, and I think she would probably be pretty good at it. Now, the question is, how much time do we have? And so for that reason, I rated, had the same rating as Greg. And, but there's an intuitive feeling with me with Kimberly that she could do this job and that she would bring something to the job. I've interviewed people, a lot of people over the years, and sometimes you just get that feeling when you're talking to them. And scoring-wise, it's where the numbers just don't bounce in my mind.
Yeah, and I just,
You know, I just have a feeling, but,
and you hate to hold age against someone, but she is younger and specifically dealing with, you know, she said specifically, I learn a lot more from people older than the younger, and that's true. But to deal with people that are that much older, I think there's just a, you know, a life experience that's not there. Someone that's that much younger, and it makes me, you know, cautious to how that would be received. But yeah, like I said again, I don't have a problem with any of these candidates. I think any of them would step up and do very well at this job. So I've just ranked mine, not withstanding any of these things. But so you would say, who was your first choice?
Joan.
Joan was, so the first candidate was your first choice, and your second choice?
I guess would probably be Kimberly. I just have that, just an intuitive.
Okay, and then you have third and fourth ranking for between Eileen and Mary?
Eileen and then Mary. But I could go, you know, whoever the board decides, I'm very comfortable with.
This is like last time we had to pick the administrator. I said, really, there's no bad choice, so I don't think we have a
No
losing
wrong
end of this.
answer.
This is, I'm having a hard time with it. The first two definitely came with what appears to be a stronger history and understanding of that particular industry.
Yes, I'll agree with that.
Which goes a long way, don't get me wrong. It goes a long way with networking, understanding the whole budgeting, the rules and regs in the industry, what you do at a senior center, what you can't do at a senior center. And at a level where it came off that they not only have that, but they've done it in a management level before. Which definitely right off the bat kind of puts them, okay, you're here. You're at the top. Both of them seem to know how to communicate well. I did appreciate that, to stay on track, the way Joan kind of was like, all right, could you repeat the question? Because she tried not to let herself get too lost on sidetrack discussion, so she would bring herself back just by asking the question. I think Eileen was very consistent. I did have a good feeling about Kim. I really did. But I do think you're bringing her in, and she's going to have to do a lot of learning to build up to a... But I also felt like there's a bit of a desire there for the position that, again, now we're going on feelings, gut instinct. There's a lot... Got to be careful with that. I recognize it. I thought Mary was someone that was very caring. Emotionally, she would be deeply involved. She would get involved and really try to do right for all the seniors. She was the one of the four that I heard the most about, not everything has to happen at the senior center. She was the one that kept talking about, how do we get to the homes of the people that can't make it to the center? How do we do that? And of the four, she was the only one I thought I heard, doesn't mean it wasn't said, that that's something that would be important to her. Because I do believe it's a difficult thing to manage, especially in a town like this where you don't have buses everywhere and volunteers everywhere. We got a lot of volunteers, don't get me wrong. I think for our town, we got a lot of people that are willing to volunteer. But that was an interesting part that I heard from her that was a little different than the other three candidates. And I like to hear that because it means she's interested in hearing about all
the elders in the town, not just the people that show up at the building. I can only go on what I've heard, so I've had a really hard time here, because I was kind of back and forth. I do believe Joan and Eileen are the two that are best geared towards being a director at this moment. Depending on what our goal is when it comes to the director and how long we're hoping to have the same person in that position, might make me a little less inclined for Joan, based on but I both of them, I kind of have a, is this where they would want to stay for more than 5 years? And I'm not saying that anybody should feel committed to a lifetime in Barry. I don't mean it that way, but I thought I saw that potential for a longer-term commitment from Kim. And so that's what I'm trying to balance, is the decision what's right for the next 2 years, or is the decision what's right next for possibly the next 6 or 7?
Much like when we did our administrative deliberations, we have 4 very good candidates and 4 quite diverse. They're very different. The first 2, as you said, both strong in the field, strong experience in the field, a lot of documentation for that, education. There's a lot that puts them right ahead for doing the job well. 2 very different personalities in different field from. I trust my gut. I trust what I get from someone talking to them, my impressions of people. But 2 very different. I think both, want to do the job well, but one seems more rigid, one seems more personal and caring, which to me is that's why I lean towards Eileen. She just seemed more of a personal level than that. But now we go back to Kimberly. You talk about the energy in the youth and the desire to be there long term. I agree, absolutely. She's got different thoughts. She'd be certainly more proactive. Like she said, what a great idea, let's get the high school kids involved. That's just smart. I mean, we haven't thought about that. And there's another comment, I thought it was her that made the, I'm not gonna say it because I'll get it wrong here, but there's another suggestion one of them had from implementing something that I thought was a really good idea. And then Mary in the end, the difference in Mary, she has more of a psychiatric and that type of a background, which is also very important when you're dealing with people. I know things my parents are going through, and having someone that can counsel and help on things like that, and that they can discuss things with an audience, it's hugely important. And she's the only one that really brings that aspect to the table in such, so it's difficult. And I have no problem with any of the 4 because I like aspects of each of them quite a bit. I picked a ranking that I felt good with, and I went with it, and that's all I can say more on it. I'd still also, when we're done, like to get Faye and Andrew to comment on this and see what they think. We knew the board's ranking of these same candidates. So.
The other thing is, between Kim, Eileen, and Joan, I was only 5 points apart from all 3 of them, so the ranking was the numbers themselves didn't sell me on one. It's really about how I perceived the interview, and that's the hardest part. Because I saw what came to me from this interview was the strengths were comparing apples to oranges, because each one had their own kind of strength, and it's hard to say, is that strength more important to the position than this strength? And so it's not an easy deliberation. It's not an easy decision for me right here, because
Well, the funny thing is, numerically, we all ranked them numerically in the exact same order, except for one. Charlie was within a point in the first 2, but we both had Eileen ranked first and Joan second, and Charlie had that inverse by 1 point. But our ranking numerically was...
I had Joan first.
You had Joan first? Oh, okay, so it was I was the one that had a different, but I'm saying numerically, otherwise, we had the third and fourth, Kimberly and Mary ranked third and fourth numerically, and we had, the numbers were all very close, which is interesting, that mean, by the scores, but what we take away from the candidates is, I think, gonna come down to, be an important aspect of it.
What would you guys think the strengths you are looking most for from a director? Without speaking to any one of the actual individuals, what are the things that you're like, this is what we need in that position?
I liked Mary's outreach. That is so important, and right now, we don't have an outreach. For a long time, Pauline Carlson did both Shine and outreach. And she was constantly going into homes, because that's where you're needed. And we have neglected that area of our service.
I think Eileen was into outreach as well.
Could be, but she didn't bring it out as much as Mary did, that's right.
I think initiative is a big thing. They need to have initiative, see what needs to be done. Deal outside the box, look outside the box. Looking through the resumes, I thought Joan did a good job getting references. She went beyond what other people did as far as getting the references.
She was very heavy into counseling, and I really don't think that's something we need. She was very heavy into counseling.
Are you speaking of Joan?
Yes.
Okay.
If there's a need, I haven't seen it. I agree with Beverly that we need outreach.
But in my opinion, both Eileen and Mary are top notch.
I like Eileen and Joan.
Mm-hmm.
I think the council, 9 people voted and we ranked them in the order that
Right.
Yeah,
we presented to them,
presented
so.
to you.
Matt, do you have a ranking for yours yet, to give us a 1 through 4 out of curiosity?
No, that's why I was asking for some input, because like I said, I felt like I was comparing apples to
Yeah.
oranges based on different strengths I saw, so I was, I guess
9
if.
people looking at these 4 people and coming up with different conclusions.
Right, and you guys helped by providing, as a group, your kind of rankings also to help us say, all right, as the group of 9, what did you guys think about? So I'm keeping that in mind, because you've already done this once, so you've talked to them all, you had your own first impressions through the interview process, things like that.
I have to say, the way they presented themselves tonight is very different than what we saw.
Yes.
That was gonna
And
be
all
my
4 of
question.
them,
Yes.
and all 4 of them, probably Eileen is the most consistent with what we saw. But the other 3 are very different than what we saw. than what we saw.
How so?
I have a much more positive impression of Kim tonight
Then we
than
did.
the first, than at our interview.
I had a more positive impression of Mary tonight than of
Mhm.
Kristen.
Yes.
I still think Kim was hung up on computers. I hate to say this, but you get to be a certain age, and I'm speaking for myself as much as anybody else that's older. You get to the point where this is beyond us, we don't care anymore. This is how much we know about computers. That's enough. And I also have to say, a couple of them brought up working with Quabbin. We tried that.
Yeah, we
It
did.
it fell through. We had somebody at Quabbin who was very willing to do that, and she left. For good reason, but the prom night, that was one of the things that she was promoting, all fell apart. We have had some very good volunteer students that have come in one time and do things for us, and they're always very good, and we enjoy that. But I can't see them coming to teach us how to use a computer, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my concern was the generational gap with Kim was just,
They're not,
that was my
they're
real
too
concern.
busy. And it's not that, just the generational gap, they're too busy.
No, he
Mike-
was saying with that applicant.
With the applicant in
with the
general.
applicant, not the
I'm
students.
saying the applicant, her
Yeah.
generational gap is, her perspectives aren't necessarily gonna be in line
Yeah.
with what you're really looking for.
And
Doesn't
the way
doesn't mean
it
she
really
couldn't
is-
learn it, as Matt said, but there's gonna be a learning curve there till she get the things.
I have grandchildren, they're too busy for me to teach me computer or anything else.
But it's an interesting task. You wanna rank yours?
Well,
Matt's
yeah,
not ready to rank
thoughts
his.
on-
I'll just basically let you know what I thought I'm feeling, and I had an opportunity to reach out to some of the references today too, so.
I'd like to hear about that.
But on the top two candidates that were brought forward, not all four of them, but with Eileen, with the references, they brought up, her references brought forward her leadership skills. And with Joan, her references brought out most of her desire in her to push things forward. From kind of going through everything, my gut feeling is that Eileen would be the best fit for the job because she understands the most of what it takes to perform the job. And I think that where we're at, where we are as a center, and the fact that we don't have a lot of, it's really a one-man department that runs it, it's important that we kind of have somebody that does know how to do the job down there.
Can you finish ranking the other?
One plus in hers is that she worked with the town
Mhm.
as well in Templeton, which the others were all more with the city type government too.
I'm just scoring them too.
Right.
At 4-3-2,
Right,
we're just
and
giving point wise.
Mary
Just
would
out of
be-
curiosity.
right, Mary
give
would
us-
be my third, and,
So Joan would be a second?
yeah, Joan would be my second, and then Kimberly would be my fourth.
Okay.
They were close, so I just felt that Mary kind of brought more, was more energetic for the position. And I think that was just kind of what stood out to me a little bit more.
Okay. Faye, do you want to throw in any comments and a ranking for us, or?
Well, I have to.
If you can rank me all four, I'll take them. If you can't, it's,
I guess the first thing I would like to say is thanks to the council members for their time interviewing and getting through this. Because there's definitely some qualified people that are before this board. Knowing, I've been here for some years and seeing what the council down there has done and what have you, I think that for me, I agree, I felt that Eileen kind of, at this moment in time, may be the best scenario for what we have in front of us. I don't think that there's major struggles going on at the senior center. I think that, it's operating, and I don't think that there are big issues. I felt that some of the candidates led us to believe that they feel there's issues.
I
don't
think
agree
because
with
the
that.
director became absent abruptly, that they think something is huge going on, which is.
Agreed. So I felt that some of them
you know.
came here
Ready
kind
to
of.
fix us, they're ready to fix us.
Yeah, like that there was issues, and I don't necessarily feel that that's the case. The only issue is that we're looking for a council director.
Right.
That's the issue in front of us. So I felt that Eileen, I think, would be right now the smoothest and person that's qualified to step in and just take it over.
And assuming you can't have her, who next?
I was honestly tossed between, and I didn't rate like you guys, I did not score sheets, but just what I was
Well,
looking
you
at.
heard how I was, you probably wouldn't disagree with
I felt
them.
that
Similar.
Joan and Mary, for me, were kind of at a tie. I felt that Joan had great energy, and I feel that I like energy, and so she brought a lot to the table.
You're sounding like Matt with them being tied, yeah.
However, I felt that Mary brought maybe a different level of energy. It was more outreach, more stuff like that. But Joan had that type of outreach as well, and she's had kind of a lot of, no, I shouldn't say a lot of career changes, but careers in kind of different things, which being the only person down there running the show, you have to be able to do that. So without having a score number, I felt that those two were tied. I felt that Kim
Fair enough.
would make
I
a
can
great
score it that
candidate
way.
as well. I just feel that right now with the transition that we have, she didn't have the background to just pick up, next week and take it over.
Fair enough. I can write it that way. It just gives another way to look at it, not that it's gonna
Yeah.
mean anything in the end of it.
And I
but
think
it's
my
just-
only question, when Charlie asked, for Andrew and I, if we had anything to say, my only question was going to be tonight after you guys seeing them, what you thought, so I'm glad that that question was answered.
So how does the board want to proceed? Do we want to make a
Still,
decision?
still waiting for Matt's ranking if he wants to.
He's
But-
deep in thought, I can tell.
But you see why, my first instinct was to say if it's a candidate you wanted, I'd be willing to accept it. But Matt said we chose this format, we'll stick with it, and I agree. Unless everyone's in unanimous agreement, we stick with our format. And now that we've had the format, we're coming up with slightly different perspectives, and maybe for different reasons than how you've looked at them. We're considering longevity in the position, we're considering,
We
Matt.
considered longevity.
Yeah, and we're considering match and feel of the people. Like you said, they present differently tonight than they did last time. I think partly probably to explain that would be when you've made it past the first vetting and you're down to the final four, I think that's a good boost for people, so they probably bring their A game tonight and really feel some sort of, pride because they made it this far and committed. It probably boosts their esteem and morale a little bit, and you get a little different out of them. So it is nice to have the second interview process and see how it steps up. We'll see. Figure if I
All right.
talk long enough, he'll get one.
This is where it lands with me.
Okay.
I can't explain it much more than I'll just state it. For whatever reason, I actually felt like Eileen was going to be more of a, when she gets in the box, she's in her box. This is how it works. This is the policy, this is the rules, this is the set. This is what she's been doing is what it feels like to me. And when we asked for out of the box, the thing she had suggested was grant writing for tablets and iPad support to train people. That didn't to me feel too much like out of the box for a senior director type person, like, that's what you do, grant writing. I'm just,
I think-
my perspective, not to say I was reading her properly.
If I remember properly from the original interview, she has done that project, but she did it with younger people. So it would be out of the box for her to do it with our age group.
Yeah.
No. What I meant,
When you're talking about.
it was
the tablet.
provide an experience of something you've done out of the box, not something you would do. And what she said is, I wrote a grant to do this training on tablets and iPads. Which is okay, but to me, it still felt like a very conservative answer, and everything else was just, I just know how to do the job. And I'm not knocking it, I'm just telling you, I just wanted to explain kind of the gut feeling, because I don't know how to, that's what I meant, I don't know how to better explain it. I had a gut feeling like, I don't necessarily think that I don't think it has anything to do with could she do the job. She definitely could do the job. Not even questioning that. I just had the feeling that once she got in a routine, she wouldn't want to revisit the routine and change it later. That would become what she does until she leaves. And I don't think in today's society with the senior center, you can do that too much. You've got to constantly, each year, reevaluate yourself, see what programs are working and not, redevelop that program. And I had a first impression, I can't nail it on, she said this, and this is why I think, it's just the impression I had, was she's not necessarily about that. It's like, once she gets it, that's what it is. Let's not go back to it. And then maybe she'll look at the next policy or the next thing. And I think there's a certain point of you have to go back and check. You gotta say, is that still working? Is that still actually effectively serving the elder population in the town? Or is it just getting me through on that thing and I'll go over here and do this now? And it's a subtle thing that happens with people. It's not something I am necessarily calling a really negative trait. I'm just saying, when I compare it to Joan, the effect I thought I was seeing from Joan was, I'm looking, and I'll double check. And then I'll move on, and then I just got the impression from Joan, she's much more about truly evaluating everything and then making adjustments. And she will go back and reevaluate and make new adjustments once she's lived it long enough. She's not gonna just be stuck with this is how you do it. Again, I'm speaking from just gut feelings here. I cannot tell you what she said to make me think that. So I would put Joan above Eileen, and I can't put much more to it than my gut. When I get to the next two, I do believe those would fall 3 and 4. I would put Kim above Mary. But that would be Joan, Eileen, Kim, Mary. That would be my ranking, 1, 2, 3, 4. When it comes to Kim, I had ended up speaking to one of her references because I so happen to work in Worcester where she previously worked. So I know someone that said good things about her work ethic and what she does and how she works, but it had nothing to do with this business. So it wasn't something to say, hey, you know, she works with seniors, because she never did in the role specifically that she was doing for the city of Worcester that I'm aware of. Now, she may have come across seniors, but it was just because she was serving all the residents, not like focused on seniors. But people said she did a good job, very competent, very organized, things like that. So I was like, okay, sounds good. But that was an unsolicited reference. They knew she had applied. It got to me. I'm putting it out there that I had just heard this. But this, I've never worked with her directly, so I don't want it to come off like I have any background from here, but I also don't want to hide it that I knew she worked there. She worked where George Ricker went to go work. So, on the same floor, the same buildings. And it happens to be a building that my department in Worcester manages the facilities of. So I'm in and out enough to see people in the building. I got to know Kim a little bit when she was working there, other than one day I learned that she lived in Barry. I mean, it was kind of like, that's how I got to know her. I never worked with her on anything. It was I walked through the hall and there's Kim. So I'm just being honest, trying to put it out there. I don't have any relation or knowledge, and I've never met her outside of the workplace. So there it is, 1, 2, 3, 4. I went Joan, Eileen, Kim, Mary. And I'm not trying to knock Mary, it's just, I don't know if I think she's director material. I think she has the heart of a lion. She'll give you everything she's got. But at some point, she'll have to be the one to make the decision. And I'm not sure she's ready for that. She would be your best second person in any department you'd ever have. But I don't know if I would want her to put her at the top of a department, even though it's a one-person department in this town.
One of the things that I noticed from all of them, and maybe you picked up on it, and I didn't, none of them answered you how they work with the council.
Yeah.
And I'm listening for that, because I'm part of the council. Not a single one of them commented on how they would work with the council.
They all did in different ways.
They talk around it, but
No,
never
Well, I think they all said that
I know.
communication was a key.
Communication between them is a key. I think our last respondent, Mary, said, was it Mary? No, it was Kim that said specifically, I work for you, you're my boss, you tell me what.
But that's not true.
Well, she said the whole thing
That's
would.
not true. We're talking to you.
I agree. I don't think any of them truly identified the different roles and where they thought they fit.
I agree with that.
They didn't understand the concept of the Council on Aging being an important advisory board.
And that's all.
Right. But I do agree with Greg a little bit that each of them spoke to, at least 3 of them truly said the words communication.
Yes.
Which at least made it sound like They want to hear from what you have to say and then respond back to you when you have questions. So in other words, we're not keeping you out of the loop. That's what I was thinking I was hearing when they said the words communication, things like that. But I agree, I don't think anybody truly sat there and said, and that kind of surprised me from Eileen and Joan. Maybe more Eileen, because she's been more directly involved with Elder Affairs Department, senior centers. Joan's been much more counseling and different, more, not the same. So I thought Eileen, also working for towns, might better understand that relationship of council on aging and speak to it more directly, and she didn't.
She may have had staff too. She may have had paid staff,
Not likely in Templeton,
but she's.
but
also-
you're right, in Gardner, I definitely
And-
expect she
and-
had that.
And I believe Dartmouth,
Right,
I believe Dartmouth is on her resume.
I think you're correct.
I mean, other towns, I mean, I know the directors will have different relationships with their councils on aging, because some are just want to be more involved
Yeah.
than others. And I think that was one of the reasons why I ranked Eileen where I did, because I recognized that she's the only one out of the three that's actually worked with the council on aging in the past and understands what the role of the council on aging is, rather than trying to kind of bring somebody in who doesn't understand the role of each board and try to take direction from every single person.
Okay, so maybe we can narrow it down. We all have the top two that we agree on, am I correct?
Yeah, Joan and
Except for
Eileen
you.
is the top vote.
Except for you, you're the only one that ranked Eileen as third and you ranked
Yeah,
Kimberly
you did
second.
put Kim
Yeah,
second.
that point-wise,
So,
I can.
No, I mean, in your rankings,
Yeah.
you said Eileen would be your first choice, Kimberly would be your second choice.
Yeah,
And then then the third would be Eileen.
yeah.
So other than that, yeah.
So I can go along with narrowing it to those,
Joan and Eileen is the top two choices.
yeah.
Numerically wise, we tally up, if I score 4 points for a first choice and 3 for a second, 2.5 for a split second and third, 2 for third and 1 for fourth.
Mm.
We total with Joan at 20.5 and Eileen at 20, and the other two at 11 and 8.5. So very, very,
Who
very.
put Joan at the top?
I did.
We have three
I did.
What?
we have three top choices. The council chose Joan for top, as did Charlie and as did you. And I had Eileen, as did Andrew and Fay at the top. So we had three, and I'm counting 6 groups, 3 and 3 chose up the top.
Okay,
Then as far as our numerical scoring, Eileen scored higher, total numerically, but that's hard to judge because, like I said, my numbers were all higher than Charlie's completely across the board. So it's hard to take that total number into account, just because it was so different. So
Yeah.
I think my numbers skew that number to make her higher, so I wouldn't even consider that total, other than the fact that we all scored them similar in rankings. As far as this goes, yes, Eileen was ranked higher once and lower twice, and Joan was ranked higher twice. So we could just say Joan ranked higher twice. In the total numerical, because you guys had them so close, and I had to disparage you, but you know what I mean, I had a 12-point difference in their rankings, and you both had them very close, 1 point and 2 point difference. So it's my numbers that skewed that greatly. So as far as that goes, 2 of you selected her numerically over Eileen. And as far as total points, giving a point system, it would put Joan at 20.5 and Eileen at 20. And as I said, I'm happy with all the candidates. And
But I was listening to the discussion, and, in my mind, Eileen, I could easily move to the top of my list, pretty much move to the top. I just listening to the discussion around the room here. I could go with that, but whatever.
Now I can bring up the next question nobody likes to hear.
Okay?
I think I brought it up even when we were talking about town administrators. If you had Joan and Eileen equally, if you just said, either one's perfect, doesn't matter, I can go with either one. only difference is what you think you would have to pay those two, who would you choose? If the only difference in your mind is I would have to pay less for Eileen versus Joan, or less for Joan than Eileen, based on, because none of the numbers were brought up, so it's not like we know. In your mind, you're thinking, who do you think is the one you would approach?
Councilman Jones, could I just tell you
Yep.
that Lorraine said this is the figure the former director was taking, and we're assuming that that's about what you're gonna get? So that
No,
was the
right, they
information were
understood the
given.
number we budget for that
was the
job.
number that they were given, about what the former director was getting.
Yeah.
So you're saying they're all aware of the salary?
Yes.
I'm just gonna present this to you guys.
As
for
far as we were
consideration.
able to judge what they did. We just knew what Lester was getting, so
Yeah.
And they stayed in the interview process, so,
they all knew that.
right.
That was information that was given to them.
And I think we also told them at the time too that the start salary that they would start at might be lower than
Yes.
that even because of the step process.
The range, yeah.
So they were all aware.
Now, this was Eileen was, I believe, currently
Page 2 has the
unemployed.
accurate.
One of the
and
interviews
Joan
came
was
from there.
employed right
Mhm.
now.
Joan had like 10 hours a week.
She has minimal hours a
Yeah.
week, but she has employment, and Eileen has no employment right now. So there may or may not be time delay for Joan starting, depending on her commitment with her 10 hours. I would assume there would be some sort of conflict or some delay needed for that, which, shame on us, that's what we should have asked also. How
Well, I
soon
thought
would
of
be
that,
available
and
for a
I
start
also
position.
knew that the job, I thought of that.
Because people were asking us.
And then I said, well, the
times,
job is
uh,
not necessarily 40 hours a week, and if that job is 10, and that thought had passed my mind when we were doing it, but I was looking at the 30, whatever number of hours we had.
It's just something I wanted to think about. I'm not trying to beat someone up because they might want more money. I don't mean it negatively like that. It's just, I'm that torn between Eileen and Joan. I'm looking for any factor that helps me sway which direction to go, and I don't. And if that's what it was, I think Joan is the one that would come in at a lower price, which means there's more money in that budget for the rest of the Elder Affairs, Council on Aging budget,
It's its own line item.
within the same budget. I mean, it may be its own line item, but it falls under the Council on Aging, right? It's like, when they
does.
submit
It
it's
does,
part of
but
their
it's-
salary.
It's its own line item though.
It would still need to be.
So you couldn't pay
moved,
expenses
yeah.
right now out of that money. You could not at this moment.
No, but when finance committee's reviewing it, they're not looking at the breakdown within Council on Aging all the time. Or should I say, when we do the overview of the budget, we don't break down every line when we're trying to look at the big number. We kind of look at, if I remember how it reads, some of these subline items are combined together and thrown in under a treasurer.
Yes, so council on aging.
So that's all I
has-
meant. The big picture number for that department's needs to include the salary for the director that runs it is this number.
Council on aging has 2 lines in our budget at town meeting.
But, yeah, salaries and expenses are
Yeah.
always separated from.
Mhm.
Right, but if you're paying someone less for a salary, you can then suggest that you can put more into the other line item on the budget and say you're not overly affecting everybody else and their budget line items.
Not out of line with
and-
any of them as far as-
So what I'm saying is you need a director and you need a council on aging. All of that budget is one number. If you can get a little less money for the director, then you can put more money into the actual budget for the operations of the council on aging, without affecting other departments' budgets by taking money from them to fund it. And that's all I meant. You're right. in the middle of a fiscal year without the town approving it, we couldn't just slide that money over and pay for it. But when the next budget comes up, if we're
Right.
save $2,000 on a director's, we got 2,000 more to throw at the Council on Aging operational budget. And that's all I'm trying to think of, and I'm not trying to be mean about it, it's just something you have to look at. You can't not ignore it. Otherwise, we'd pay everybody a whole bunch and give everybody great people to work for, and then they'll have no budget to do anything for you. You can have great managers, but if they have no money to use or no resources, what's the benefit? And so that's all I'm thinking, because that's all I'm thinking. And are they coming in at the first step, or is we still gotta negotiate that? Because I believe we still gotta negotiate
You
it.
can negotiate that because the select board can take into consideration prior years of service.
Right.
In a,
Experience, right.
yeah, years of service and experience in a similar role. So, you know, somebody that has the experience of a council on aging director would say that they're really at a step 4, not a step 1. Effects.
And if you're sitting at one side of the table, which of these candidates do you think has a stronger case to say they should fall at a higher step when they start?
It's obviously,
And that's all I meant. I'm not even saying it's a negative. I mean, great for Eileen, I mean it. And if we were able to still work it out and have her, great for us.
Should I ask, Charlie's indicated he might alter his rankings for first through fourth choices. Would anybody else want to change their rankings after hearing all the discussion? Because even, you could try, if Charlie changes that one ranking, it changes the top numbers if he changes his ranking.
All the same to me, it's not gonna change my ranking.
All right, well,
Doesn't mean it's gonna affect how I vote. I mean,
Right.
if we think it's worth voting tonight, we can still vote. I'm not
Up to
gonna
you,
hold
gentlemen,
anything up on
I'm
this.
ready to vote right now.
Someone wants to make a motion?
Well, yeah.
You wanna wait?
My first choice was Eileen, but I'm also a guy that likes to go by these numbers and say that by the numbers, Jones won by half a point. And that's why I'm wondering about changing rankings. If Charlie really has changed his opinion, that would change these numbers. That's, I think, I would hope, part of us having the discussions is to see how we all feel after the discussions.
That's right.
The one thing we didn't discuss, really, which we did administrative time, was detractions or negatives. And like I said, the one thing I saw negative, for example, about Kim was just her youth. I think she's a little too young to be in the position because of such generation gap with the people she'd be trying to serve and do things with. And perhaps in a few more years, she'd be fantastic for that position. But that was my holdback from her. My detraction from Mary was she seemed more therapy-related in psychiatric and in that type of therapy than in the relation part, and that's what sets the first two aside. And I liked, to me, Eileen seemed more personable, and I had a warmer feel from it. That's going by gut once again than Joan, and that hasn't changed in me at all. From our discussions, we all have slightly different points about different parts of it, but I haven't wanted to change my ranking. But if somebody does, I think it would be relevant before I give my opinion to my final score, because these are our just raw scores as we go, and I'm curious if Charlie really wants to change his ranking, or if he's.
Yeah, I'll change it.
If you want to change it completely what you want, I just want to look at the scores again to that, and how it may or may not affect this.
Yeah, I don't know what.
And the same thing with Faye, if she wanted to consider splitting 2 and 3 and making 1, 2, or 3, because that will change the numbers.
All right.
So that would be my last choices before I want to be ready to cast a vote.
Before we get into final discussions, I'm gonna make a motion, we can vote on it, and that will probably determine which one wins either way. But that leads into it gets second, and then Charlie says any more discussion, so I'm not closing the discussion, I'm just saying,
Okay,
I make a motion that we pursue Joan Anderson for the Director of Council on Aging.
I'm not prepared to second it at this point until I get the opinion
Well, if it
difference.
doesn't get seconded, it means I'm the one of the three that is, and you
Well,
guys, and that's
well-
okay.
well, it doesn't-
That's all I meant, it just got it moving, so if
Well, no,
you're
I'm
not
just
gonna
looking-
second it, that's fine.
But I didn't know if anyone else wanted to think about their rankings too, and not the discussion, because that's the idea of discussing it, was to talk about
See, yeah,
everything.
right.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
are you happy with your ranking, Charlie, or are you gonna move your rankings around?
Well, I listening to the discussion, I guess I would move Eileen Clarkson up to the top. And switch them around
And that will put Joan to second,
to second. I couldn't tell you what the points are, it's just
and then you drop Kim, I guess, to third, and
Third,
Mary.
yeah. something like that.
So-
Yeah. A little different than the points, but I would be willing
Yeah.
to go along with that. And, you know, but if the board chooses,
That actually makes it,
elsewise,
that makes it.
whatever the
jump.
board chooses, I will make it afterwards a unanimous vote. Cast of one, Beta cast one ballot for a unanimous vote. I'm
It's
pretty
not gonna
comfortable.
land unanimous.
Well, that-
Obviously, Greg and I disagree.
Well, no, that-
You have to vote, Charlie.
I know, but
I
I'm saying
didn't
is that-
say I wasn't gonna
I'm
vote.
glad.
That
I'm
changed
just-
because he'd ranked Eileen third initially, not, even if Eileen had been ranked second by him originally, he didn't rank her in the top two, he ranked her in the third. Even if he said, you know, I consider her my second ranking, that would change numerically on the way I did the score with everyone, that
Mhm.
would have put her in first place.
Yeah.
But to say that he wants to rank her first puts her, 2.5 points ahead now. On that ranking system, I did taking the council's administrator assistant and all of our opinions into effect. That makes a very big difference to move her from third
Second.
to first. Even if it was third to second, that would have swung the vote though, for me, because of the tally. That's where mine's coming from.
I think, I don't feel that I wanna change my vote whatsoever, but I feel that I had a tie between Joan and Mary. And like you said, taking into factor what everybody had to say, personality-wise, thinking outside of the box here. I think Joan brought maybe a little bit more Barry personality
Mhm.
to the table.
Okay.
I don't live here, I've worked here for a long time, so to say that is,
Right.
I'm looking at it in that aspect, cause I have two people that I felt that brought to the table other things that made them equal in my mind. So if we're trying to figure out, where to go, since I had a tie, I wanted to just express my opinion that I felt
No, and I
Joan,
appreciate that.
personality-wise, maybe had more of a Barry personality than Mary.
And numerically wise, that would put us at 20 at Joan and 22 for Eileen. And once again, still, if Charlie only moved Eileen to his second choice, she'd still be at 21. But that would be 21, 21. It would be close, but it still leaves us with the ranking as it is. For me, to go by this, to consider everyone's opinions, it still leaves it slightly in favor of Eileen. But namely with four first choices for Eileen and two for Joan as first
All right.
choice.
For the sake of discussion, I'll make a motion that we nominate Eileen Clarkson and ask that Andrew enter into negotiation with her on a contract.
I would second the motion.
Okay, now we can have some discussion. Did you want to say anything, Matt, or?
Faye does.
It's not a contracted position.
No, but I mean,
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah, I know-
clarify.
I
We
know.
haven't decided upon the step exactly. We might discuss that.
no,
more
but I
too.
would think that might be something he could negotiate.
I would recommend that it's the board's position that you start at the entering step and hold fast. I'll leave it at that. But
Okay.
other than that, I have nothing more to add to the discussion.
Anything
I think
above
we've
the-
talked through it all.
Anything above, we'll just say that anything above
Okay,
the
with,
bottom step will require approval of the
revisit
board.
to us, yeah.
Because I think we did, I don't know how I handled it, the discussion with you about the question, you said, how much do you want to get them for? I said, 20 grand? But that's not gonna happen.
Right.
So, we wanted to shoot as as inexpensively as we can, and certainly, I think, I agree, if we can start her on the first step, that
Yeah.
would be preferred, and that also gives her room to grow. If you start her high up, there's less room to grow, and I think, looking at what you've drawn up here, and if, what he showed us was population size, budgets of towns, and the pay scale ranges for the council positions, and ours are really pretty much in line with other towns, if not a little ahead for our population size, so low end on our scale is certainly reasonable to other positions of similar sized towns around us. So it's not unreasonable to start down lower on the scale,
Right.
so.
Okay, so we have a motion.
So I agree with that in that context, that
Yeah.
we start low.
Okay, we have a motion that's been made and seconded. Call.
Who seconded that?
Charlie
No, Charlie
it, I
made the motion,
seconded.
Greg second.
Sorry.
Okay, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor of Eileen Clarkson?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Just for the record, I think she's still a fine candidate, for the record. I'm not-
Would you like to have a vote now to make it just a unanimous vote?
No.
after-
There's no need for that.
Split?
I
Okay.
am
That's-
comfortable with,
Okay,
I'm okay
you're
with
still
those.
gonna
I'm
do a
o-
great job if you
Okay,
end up
I know.
accepting the salary and all,
Just,
but.
when we're on the topic, I'm okay with when we have split votes, because we do have different opinions, and there's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with it.
Yeah.
no, there
But
isn't.
the important thing is
I
that we are
appreciate the
all,
offer, Charlie.
we're all
Yeah, I just did
happy,
it just to show.
as long as we're all
the
happy
person
with how the
coming in.
process goes, and I think that is. And like I
That's
said, had Charlie wanted to change his vote, then I would have gone along with my numbers on the facts, and I'm good about that, but.
Okay.
I just, for the sake of time, I know we're
Yes.
facing time, would the board want to pick a second candidate in the event that maybe the salary is an issue? Or maybe the
That's-
candidate had some time
That's
to
a
think about it?
great suggestion, because I think that would be easy to do.
I'm just
But,
asking.
you know, we wouldn't, I will make a motion, and it will be a little more complex than just a second candidate.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we would select Joan as our second candidate if we cannot come to an agreement with Eileen, giving at least, I would say, perhaps one or two, I don't know, are you guys picking up a counter offers if she doesn't accept the first offer? At least one counter offer, I would say, before we consider moving on. And we don't move on automatically, but that would be our candidate to move to, if Andrew feels that he's not going to close that. But I do want to have the opportunity to come back for at least a counter offer once for her request, a different request, and then with our response, he can go back. If that doesn't settle it, then we can move on to another candidate.
Okay, so, just for information, Wednesday night I did post a meeting for you guys after talking with Andrew, because there is finance. So if more discussion needed to be held Wednesday, you
Right.
could
We could put it on
following,
the agenda.
you could
and
following the
just-
finance committee meeting.
Right, but I think, depends how quickly she comes in,
Just so you know.
if he's, if Andrew makes a proposal and she wants a little more, and he just states the fact that he has to come back to us, we make a counter. If she's unwilling to accept that counter, we could move forward. At that point, I would feel comfortable move forward to offer it to Joan. Because we don't want to play the back and forth counter game too often.
Right.
And
I
that will give
would
us-
just make a recommendation that we put it on the agenda for Wednesday as a possible discussion topic, which would be the position and potential wage authorization, and put it on Monday's agenda as well.
Right. Cover the,
So
So
Wednesday,
right-
if it comes up and we can take action, we'll take it.
So rather than.
If not, we'll do it Monday. Hopefully, it is just a wage authorization, because we don't
And
want to
if
drag
not,
this
you
out,
got-
but
you
if
prefer to
not,
look
we
at
can
the
make a
candidate
decision
then.
Wednesday, like, you're telling me we're not gonna be close. Go ahead and give Joan a call.
Because you'd rather defer that decision and rather than move forward, wait and just do it all
Right,
at
just
once.
put it on the agendas and we
Okay.
can hit it real quick, those two meetings, I'm
Sure.
thinking.
okay.
Sure, that's okay.
But I agree with the
Okay.
plan.
Right.
Yep.
So there's no second to that motion, so we do not need to act on it.
Okay. Now, what time is our meeting on Wednesday?
6:30.
6:30, okay. With that, I guess we've come to the end of the meeting.
Thanks be to God.
What?
Thanks be to God.
Thank be
Motion-
God.
Thanks for
That's
lasting
what we
through it,
always
I
say. Well, we
appreciate
don't
it.
normally say that, we just get up and leave.
Motion
but-
to adjourn, we do that?
Second. Second, everybody agrees on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to
Thank
the
you for
council.
coming, thank you for everything.
Thank you much. Truly appreciate you guys coming and sticking it out.